What's going on?
What's in the world? It's not punk up to.
Just living the punk lifestyle.
Straight edge.
Yep. I could be straight edge except for booze.
Hope everybody's doing well. Another weekend is upon us. We're going to talk about some hostile organisms.
Oh, talk about, is it Hasbro toys? That's a hostile organism. Nah, not that. Alien.
Yeah. Hasbro is a hostile organization. What company would you rather work for, Johnny? Would you rather work for Weyland-Yutani, who the crew are working here, or would you rather work for
At least they leave you alone in space, so they're not micromanaging you and coming down and changing all your designs and what are they doing to you? Outsourcing you. It's like, I'm in space. You can't outsource me. I'm already way out here in space. What are you going to do?
At least though, if Hasbro send an android to try and fuck with you, you know it will probably break, so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, if they would have sent Optimus Prime after me, that's okay, because I've been like, he's not going to kill me.
Yeah, we won't.
Unless it's the zombie one.
The Transformers. But if it's not too obvious from our big picture here on screen, we're talking about one of my absolute favorites today, Alien.
Yes. Kicking off a extraterrestrial month, I guess, because we're getting Alien, Predator, Aliens being the second one, and Predator 2. We're going to crank all those out in the next, I don't know, next 3 to 6 weeks or whatever. Might crap another WrestleMania out of our behinds in between somewhere.
Yep, it's all on the table.
Yeah.
We can pivot from topic to topic, no problem. You know, we're very flexible in that regard.
Yeah, and we're gonna do well. Assuming's all right with you, but we'll go to the movies, and then once we get through the movies, we're gonna do some talk about some of the toys, video games, and comics for like Alien and Predator. No, I said Alien and Predator, not Alien versus Predator. Steering well away from that, except for the awesome Capcom video game and the Dark Horse comics. But the terrible movies, no, they can just go over here somewhere. And
yeah, it's strange. Sometimes it's like they're erased from my memory, because even when you said that, my mind just drew a blank for a second, and then all of a sudden the memories start coming back.
And to think that like at one time that we're going to make actual like better Alien or Predator individual films, and instead made that and scrapped other projects to make those trash films. And they're not the worst trash films of the world. I mean, they're garbage, but they're watchable garbage. There's certainly worse stuff, but I just pretend they're not part of anything to do with this.
Oh yeah, it's the difference in quality is night and day. And yeah, I'm like you, like I could watch them I could watch them for a bit of a laugh. And you know, there's some nice visuals and stuff. in them as well, and creature designs
Yeah,
and
you've
things
got
like that.
effects and creature. The people that actually work on the film, like doing the, I don't know, costuming and effects and alien, that stuff's fine. It's just it's a trashy studio-driven sequel that's got nothing going for it. You know?
This is why the folks tune into our show, because we begin the topic by immediately jumping into the worst stuff to do about it that has nothing to do with what we're talking
Worst
about.
things imaginable. They could have done any of the 90s Dark Horse comics that did a whole series of Aliens versus Predator, that where they got the title from, as well as the video game. Any of those would have made an infinitely better film just for the plot or story. Even the worst ones would have been better.
Aye, but before Alien versus Predator, before Aliens versus Predator, before Predator, there was only Alien.
Yep.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
It's kind of a grill there, but also it reminds me almost like a little bit like movie seats, like you're looking up at a screen.
What do you think of the tagline? I think it's one of the best movie poster taglines ever.
I think it's excellent, and it's like it just sort of, it's I've lost my train of thought. It's just one of those ones to get you like intrigued, like, well, what do they mean by that, or where is that? Why are you screaming, and where are they? And it's not meant to be about the scientific fact that there's no oxygen. It's not meant to be like that. So of course, no good here. Like you was a virus. Like comic book nerds.
Nobody can hear you. Full stop.
Yeah. I love that Simpsons one where it's like, I can't remember if it was like a remake of Star Wars or Battlestar Galactica, and the entire film's silent, and he's like, a masterpiece. But yeah, it's a great tagline.
This is an excellent
teaser image.
Excellent poster. Do you know what this kind of reminds me of as well? It reminds me of Gremlins a little bit, because the way the egg is in this picture, like obviously the egg never no glowing green ooze or anything ever flows out of the bottom of the egg in the movie. But in Gremlins, that kind of does happen when they cocoon themselves and like change into the monsters. I remember thinking that those kind of pod-like eggs they're in always reminded me of the picture on this poster.
And it's like, this was 1979, but it's in between your I don't know, your 80s the sci-fi horror stuff, and then of course your more galaxy hopping science fiction and Star Wars and pod people stuff in the 70s. It's on the back of all these science fiction movies, not to mention 2001, of course, which is not my favorite film, but I mean, it's production wise, it influenced, so many films and the style of it and all that. And so it's it really sits in the middle there, somewhere between making a movie out of B material and trying to avoid the cliches that go along with a lot of the crappier stuff, like the Star Wars knockoffs and that.
Yeah, I think it kind of hits the two worlds perfectly. It's got the kind of dark tone and kind of dismal mindset of those earlier 70s sci-fis, but it's got the special effects and production budget of the Star Wars. It's got the combination of both, instead of, the way you watch some of those earlier 70s ones and they just look so cheap and tacky in places, whereas this film, like, it looks amazing. It looks absolutely
Don't look like a canon film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the Ridley Scott, the director, and I don't know, he was he's now known for this on Blade Runner, of course. He came from doing like music videos and stuff. But it's interesting, this film was one of his early ones where he was real trial by fire, I guess, because he hadn't really done a film on this sort of scope and size, and the pre-visualization and storyboards was what really helped to get the budget from the studio. And even when they went over budget and had to get approval for filming more scenes. And I was reading a kind of retrospective interview with him this week from, I don't know, a number of years ago, where he's looking back on it, and he said the key thing for him going into the project was that he wanted it to be like an actual drama and about actual people, and the writing and the story to be the central thing, not to be a cheesy effects summer film. So it's got all the good quality special effects, and we look at it and think, "Wow, it's a special effects film." And I mean, yeah, it is in a way, but the core of it is about the characters and the story, and then the effects is the icing on the cake. They're not the main thing, like any crap we watch now at the cinema, where it's just effects, 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 and virtually no story. He didn't want that, so I'm glad he fought for and successfully went for the good character drama, which he couldn't have without the writers, of course, and the early script from Dan O'Bannon and other guys that worked on it, and it got changed around, and a heap of different people worked on it.
Yeah, they kicked around the script for a good few years, and it was even kind of
Yeah,
shopped about a fair few studios before 20th Century Fox decided to run with it. And the only reason they decided to run with it in the end was because of the popularity of Star Wars, and they just
yeah,
wanted another space film with something set in space with a spaceship. Don't care what it is. Okay, look, we'll go with this.
yeah. With a different director in earlier script, it could have been cheesy as hell and just completely forgettable bad material. But luckily, it was they took the scraps of the ideas of what was there and improved upon it and refined it into something quality.
Yeah, and like you mentioned like Dan O'Bannon, and then I think it was like Ronald Shusett was the other writer, and
Mm-hmm.
it went through like numerous changes. And I think going by like the interviews and that I've watched on it, the only kind of thing that remained unchanged throughout the entire process was like how the alien like gets onto the ship. I think
Yeah,
everything else was like pretty much completely changed from what it was, right down to the names of the characters, the genders of the car. Like they just went and redid everything several times before they settled on what we ended up with.
yeah. It seems like, I mean, there is a lot of different articles and documentaries and stuff around Alien, the aliens, and that excellent Blu-ray set that came out a number of years ago that has like I think it's about 6 hours of special features. I sat down and watched one weekend. I then I ended up watching nearly all the special features before I got around to rewatching the movie because there was just so much great stuff in there. And it seems like one of those movies when you look at the production history, it was just destined for production hell. It could have just never been made or been made into an absolute turkey. So it was very fortunate it wasn't.
Very, very fortunate. Because yeah, it could have easily been one of those, like we're saying, it could have been a real kind of B level,
Mm,
low special effects, Corman style, like just
yeah.
horror
I
movie,
know
like
there's
it just
nothing wrong with
happened to
those
be set
films,
in
but there's
space.
hundreds of them.
Yeah, and it just would have been another one of those because yeah, like you said, there are hundreds of them, and it would have just probably
Carnosaur.
fallen right into the pile. Because even like the name Alien, even in itself, is kind of like a generic name in a way.
Yeah.
It's like
Very generic.
Alien. It's a film about an alien. Call it Alien. Like it's So if it happened to have been made kind of cheaply and kind of in a throwaway fashion, it very easily could have been just committed to the pile with the rest of
We
the
just got
the
Bob
kind
with
of B movie
rubbish
schlock.
soup from down at the shops. He can only work on weekends, but here he is.
Look, we'll kick off proper here in our rundown of the action here. So first of all, after our 20th Century Fox opening logo, we see the beautiful title screen where we get the word alien kind of gradually forming as each line of the letter
Yeah, it's done like little
kind of
glyphs.
appear on screen. Always thought it was a very nice way to introduce the title of the movie. Uh, Beautiful soundtrack here as well by Jerry Goldsmith. Just really really gels well with the movie. Just works perfectly with it. So we're zoned in a Stromo, which is a commercial towing vehicle owned by the Wayland Yutani Corporation. I'll do a quick wee show off here. I'm wearing my
Oh,
on the
nice.
Stromo t-shirt here.
Very nice.
Former employee, but it's a giant commercial towing vehicle. They're hauling loads of refined ore back to Earth. God knows what planet they were on to kind of get it in the first place. But you get the impression it's like a deep, deep space expedition. They're very far from Earth, and it's we're talking about trips that take years. Like this is totally different to how space travel is presented in say Star Wars or even
Yeah,
we were talking about Transformers the movie recently, how they can just like fly from Earth to Cybertron in like no time and that. But
yeah,
we're like in the Alien universe, there's definitely, I would say, a slightly more realistic approach to what space
yeah.
travel would be like.
There's
And
no Star Trek light speed travel, nothing like that. It's all slow speed, industrial, and like fairly realistic as far as just the human being in a big space car or ship traveling at a very slow speed, and you've got to eat and sleep and go on. The only thing that makes it possible is the old sleep chambers, so they don't die basically from old age or on a journey and that sort of thing.
I think the Nostromo itself as a ship is just a really cool design. Um, like the exterior is very cool. It looks almost just like four building towers floating on a platform through space. Like it's a
Yeah,
very unusual looking design for a ship. And then when we see like the interior, we've got all these like industrial style corridors and hallways. It just has a real world feel about it. Like it looks like a place where people would work. It's like an environment that looks used and lived in, and everything looks kind of very functional and useful. And it's not just kind of thrown in there for a bit of kind of fancy looking fluff to put in a sci-fi movie. Like there's a very kind of grounded feel to how the technology and general kind of design of the ship looks in this movie.
yeah. It feels very lived in, and they did a good job with the lighting and such. And reading up on how they were sort of setting all up before they filmed it, they wanted to do more naturalistic lighting, but they found that it just experimented with it, but it didn't really work because you're in space, so there is no natural lighting coming in the window. So it was very hard to try and mimic that. And they found that they kind of experimented with that, and then went back to going, no, we're going to have to do more traditional lighting as far as setup and cameras and whatnot. But they did try and go with that theme of having minimalistic, moody lighting, where it's only like where it looks like it's coming from the console or panel or computer in front of you, and rooms aren't needlessly lit up for no reason.
And it does add to it though, because like you said, like imagine if this was all just like bright lit, like
Yeah. Well, it'll be
every
2001, which they wanted to avoid being too bright like that.
yeah, it would have killed the whole look
Hmm.
of the movie.
This is
It,
like
it
if you
looks
go into a
absolutely
big
perfect.
factory or environment, and certain rooms are going to have quite bright lights where you need to see and work, and other areas in between and corridors are going to be dark because you're just traveling in between. You're not staying in that space.
Yeah, it's very visually impressive. So we're kicking things off here after the opening titles. We are shown the interior of the ship, and we are shown a computer console activating by itself, and it seems to be receiving some form of transmission before briefly knocking off. And then we're kind of whisked down a corridor and into a cryo sleep chamber where the crew of the ship are sleeping, and we're shown them being awoken, and the pods open, and everybody starts to gradually wake up. I believe the first crew member the camera really focuses on is Kane, played by John Hurt. He's the first guy to kind of wake up out of his pod and get up to start the day. And we got a kind of a brief kind of maybe 20-30 second kind of montage of them all kind of getting up and waking up before we're brought to their kind of communal canteen area where they're all sitting eating breakfast. And having a chat. They're under the impression that they've been awoken from their hypersleep because they must be close to Earth,
Yeah,
which is usually the kind of protocol. You stay in hypersleep until you get near the destination you're supposed to be arriving at, and then the computer will wake you up. So everybody's kind of having a chat and catching up, and Captain Dallas, who's played by Tom Skerritt, he goes into the main kind of computer control room. The computer, by the way, is called Mother. That's the name of the computer system that runs the ship, and he's basically informed by the computer that they have been woken up because the ship has detected a transmission in the area, and it is ordering the crew to go to the planet where the transmission is coming from and investigate what's causing it. So that's the kind of opening moments of the movie to kind of set up our plot here. And we're introduced to everybody. So like the full crew, I'll try and go from memory here. It's Captain Dallas, it's Ripley, it's Ash, it's Parker, it's Brett, it's Kane, and Lambert. That's the crew of the Nostromo. All really well cast. This film is incredibly well cast. You would believe just listening to the kind of banter and chat that these characters are having with each other, that they've known each other for years and that they really do work together. It's a real I know it's probably it's a phrase that's been thrown about this film before. It's like real like truckers in space, but it's really just
yeah,
like
it's
workers in
accurate.
space or comrades in space. It's like people who worked and served together for a long time, and just you just get the impression that they know each other inside out, and you can kind of tell that from just the natural flow of the conversations they're having with each other.
Hmm. It is something that's kind of easy to miss on the first viewing, but on repeat viewings is more noticeable. Is like we're so used to in science fiction, outer space genre. Oh, if you're in a ship, you're having travels and adventures. Like, no, this is just a job and it's a long haul, and we're hauling stuff around for a big corporation that's paying a paycheck. We're not space explorers or space cowboys. We're not paid to have adventures, but the company's kind of hijacked our ship to force us to go and do something.
Yeah, and the company they work for, the company is Wayland Yutani, and even though you see the Wayland Yutani logo throughout the movie on kind of different parts of the ship, even though they're never actually mentioned by their name, they're only ever
Yeah,
referred to as the company in this movie. But they are actually called Wayland Yutani, and that name will be actually used, canonically in the Alien sequel movies and kind of accompanying media. But for the purposes of this movie, it's always just referred to as the company.
yeah.
And
So,
so yeah,
so
while Captain Dallas is in that computer room and he's kind of reading through the orders he's been given, we see that the Lambert and the rest of the crew they're looking at a star chart, and they don't understand why they've been woken up in this part of space. They come to the conclusion that they're nowhere near Earth, and they're all a bit kind of miffed as to what's going on. But
yeah, I love
we
all the consoles and stuff here, all the kind of lived in feel of all the bits of bloody, I don't know, hydraulics and consoles and panels and switches and lights. Like, it's so good.
It is so good, and like there is an element of realism, and I know people might look at maybe some of the stuff and think, oh well,
Well,
it's
if
a
you
bit
walked into
dated,
an
or
airplane cockpit or something, you're going to see a lot of stuff like this now. It's
yes,
not, there's some stuff is future proof. Some stuff is always going to be a fucking switch and not some bloody swipe touch bullshit.
oh, they were clearly inspired by like real life, space shuttles and things like that as well. And you have to remember, like this is a commercial kind of towing vehicle. You're not going to have loads of like fancy touch screen and holographic displays and stuff like that. It's yeah, it's all kind of a lot of buttons and levers and, you know, stuff that you can actually fix if it goes wrong. You know, you don't want to
Yeah.
be, you know, trying to tap in something on some silly little touchpad that's like not working and stuff. You know, you need to be able to pull that emergency lever if needed to, you know, to do
Yeah, for
whatever.
sure.
But yeah, I love the whole look of the technology. I love the even the screens. I know we've mentioned this before, and when we did our Escape from New York and other stuff like that. I love seeing
Yeah, you got
green
the
writing
blue there and then
on a
the
black
green
screen.
there, the old
Yeah, brilliant.
phosphorescent screens.
Love it.
And that's all very
Really, really.
realistic. I mean, that's, you know, simple computer graphic stuff, but it's very realistic as far as your 70s and early 80s. You had monochrome and single color computer monitors, which they even when you had computer monitors later in the 80s and 90s for both commercial and industrial, they still used a lot of single color stuff in certain kinds of industries, and jobs would still use for a specific purpose device, and it wasn't used for other things, where it had like less memory and it had basic functions for a certain thing. They would still sometimes use a single color, whether it was green or orange or blue or whatever.
So yeah, so after the crew have established that they're not where they're supposed to be, Captain Dallas briefs them on what he's just been told by the computer, that essentially they've been woken up for the sole purpose of investigating the origin of this transmission. Now, he gives the order that they're going to have to go to the planet where this transmission is coming from to investigate. And, you know, a couple of the crew members are not very happy about this at all. Parker and Brett are not at all happy. They don't believe it's part of their job description. They don't think that they should be forced to do it. As you know, as Parker says, you know, we're a commercial ship. We're not a rescue ship. You know, we're not trained to deal with this. And they basically kind of more or less say, look, they don't want to go down unless you're going to give us some more money. We're not going to go down. We're not willing to do it. Which, to be honest with you, these two guys in a way are kind of my spirit animals, because like I wouldn't be too keen on doing any of this stuff either. I have to say, especially if I thought I was only here to do a specific job, and now all of a sudden I'm being sent to some alien planet to investigate some signal of unknown origin. I think I'd be pretty annoyed at having to do that as well. But the two guys, they try to have an argument about it, but they're informed by Ash, who quotes the actual company contract to them, which apparently has a clause in it that you have to actually obey these orders, or you'll actually forfeit your all your money. So you won't even get paid for the job you've done already. When you get back home, you will receive no money. So they are essentially forced into going along with this mission, even though they've no desire to do it at all. So we see the planet, and in this movie they never actually name the planet. In the sequel Aliens, you will know it to be known as LV46 or LV426. But in this movie, they don't actually have a name for it. At least it's said on screen. So we see that the Nostromo actually has like a separate lander that can detach from the main ship. So the crew launches itself down onto the planet, and it's a pretty tricky descent. To put it mildly, the ship doesn't go down into the atmosphere too well. They kind of land at a funny angle that causes them to get a hull breach, and there's loads of problems happening. There's consoles blowing up, and you know, gas exploding, and the ship's just not coping too well at all after it lands on the planet. So straight away we see that they're in a pretty dire situation. So before they're even going to have to think about, you know, going to investigate this signal, they now also have to worry about trying to repair their ship if they want to be able to take off from the planet.
Yeah, I love seeing typographical map there in the orange. Like, I don't know, I just love all these hot graphics on the stuff and displays. And it's scary as hell, man. I wouldn't want to be going down to this crazy bloody planet and things start going wrong.
Oh yeah. And like I said, it's like totally different to Star Wars or stuff like that, where they just fly a ship down onto the planet and land, and everything's fine. Whereas here you see what happens what happens if you just come in too strong, or there's even kind of slightly adverse conditions to trying to land, how much chaos it can actually cause. And you could really end up in a serious pickle if a landing
And
goes wrong.
no one's around. You're alone. There's no one to come and help you if you get stuck on that planet. Like as in, there's
Oh
no
yeah.
other ships or nothing around. There might be 100 years away.
Yeah, and like according to a bit of dialogue that Lambert said earlier, they're way far out. Like they're beyond even like the outer rim of like their known kind of galaxy. Like, so they're really kind of far off course. And so while Parker and Brett are sent down below to investigate what the damage is to the ship and to work on a plan for repairing it, it is decided that Dallas, Kane, and Lambert are going to suit up and they're going to head across to the location of where this mysterious transmission is coming from. So we see them get into their awesome looking kind of spacesuits that look very realistic, and probably something at least based on known technology at the time would be like something you would see an astronaut wear. Like they're very kind of bulky and cumbersome. But you'd imagine you'd need something kind of substantial like that to be walking around on extraterrestrial environments. So the three crew members set out across a very kind of stormy and uneven terrain to make their way towards the source of the transmission.
Yeah, I love all the lighting and stuff they do here, like that blue and just the sense of it's claustrophobic and dangerous, and we don't know what's going on. The very minimal information they've been sent to check out something that's here, and the company wants to know about it and follow instructions, but you don't really know what the hell they're supposed to be doing. Just that it's not, just that it doesn't seem like it's a good idea.
Yeah. And we see Ripley, she goes down below deck just to see how Parker and Brett are getting on with the repairs. They're kind of just giving her a lot of spiel on how hard basically it's going to be to get the ship fixed, and they're under a lot of pressure to do it. We definitely get to see that kind of Ripley, Parker, and Brett. At least Parker and Brett don't really like Ripley. They seem to kind of have a bit of an issue with her, kind of barking orders at them and telling them what to do. So read into that what you will. We also see a nice little shot here of Jonesy the cat, keeping an eye on things from
Ginger
a
Ninja.
safe distance. So we cut back to the planet, and we see that our three crew members have made their way across the terrain, and they have spotted what appears to be an alien spacecraft, and it is a very unusual looking design of an alien spacecraft.
Like a
And
big horseshoe.
yeah, really cool and unique looking design. Um, very out of this world, like nothing you could kind of visualize in your own mind, having not kind of seen anything like this before. So the ship happens to kind of have a big hole in the center, which the crew members are then able to enter through. So they begin exploring the inside of this derelict spacecraft, and it's a really freaky looking interior. We've lots of very dark kind of corridors that are almost semi-organic looking. It almost looks like the walls are alive at times. There's a lot of kind of moisture and liquid within the ship. Like it's a very kind of slimy, grisly, dank looking interior. and Lambert, Dallas, Kane, they're wandering around, and eventually they find this giant room which contains a massive fossilized body of some sort of alien that seems to have been fossilized into the chair that it kind of died in, and it's sitting on this kind of massive chair, which I'm not gonna. I could go into films like Prometheus and stuff that explains all this. I'm going to try and just leave that out of it for now.
Yeah.
But in this, we don't have a clue at this moment in time what this setup actually is or what it's for. All we know is that it's a big dead alien sitting in a chair. So they go up to it to have a closer look, and they notice that its rib bones are bent outwards as if something had exploded from inside. That's one thing that they do note. They can't really determine how long the creature's been dead or how long it's been sitting there, but it definitely kind of unnerves them and freaks them out. So while all this is going on, we cut back to the ship where Science Officer Ash has been kind of monitoring things, and Ripley radios up to him to say that she's deciphered part of the transmission, and that she believes it's actually a warning, that it's warning people to actually stay away from the source as opposed to coming to find out what it is. So she suggests that she actually go out and catch up with the 3 other crew members to actually warn them and make sure they're not getting into trouble. But Ash, he suspiciously puts her off that idea and says, no, look, there's no point. By the time you catch up with them, they'll have already reached where they're going, so they'll know if it's a warning or not. He's very dismissive for some reason to not inform them that the signal may be warning them not to go near the ship. So yes, some suspicious activity going on there with Science Officer Ash. But anyway, we cut back to the interior of the derelict spaceship, and we see this Kane has discovered an opening in the floor that seems to lead down to another chamber within the ship. So he gets lowered down by Dallas and Lambert, and he discovers this almost kind of large cave structure that contains tons and tons of what appear to be eggs, and the eggs seem to be covered in a kind of like a blue kind of, there's like a blue misty field that goes over the top of them. It's kind of like almost like an alarm system, because basically when Kane walks across the surface, when his movement breaks through the mist, it actually sets off a little noise, almost as if to say, like, don't enter this area, warning. But he kind of slips off the pathway he's walking on, and he finds himself down kind of on the ground level among these strange eggs. And he goes over to one of them to have a closer look, and he shines his flashlight up against the side of it, and inside it he can actually see that there's something moving. You can actually see this almost like hand-like movement inside the egg when he holds the light up to it, and he remarks that he thinks it's some type of life, some type of organic life, and he stands up and he kind of looks over the top of the egg, and as he does, the egg actually opens, and instead of doing what most people would do and back the hell away when that happens, he
Get out of there.
instead looks even further down into the egg. And of course, this is our first on-screen introduction to the face hugger, which is a spider-like flesh-colored creature that leaps out of the egg and attaches itself to Kane's face. It smashes through his space helmet and attaches itself
Yeah,
to
I thought
his
that
to
was
his
in there.
face.
I thought
Yeah,
I
it's
had the bit where it smashed through. It must have been the frame in between where it smashed the helmet. But you can sit in here
it's
anyway.
pretty
So you can see it
horrific.
here.
Pretty horrific. So Dallas and Lambert, they they find Kane and they bring him back to the ship. But when they're outside the ship, Ripley notices that Kane seems to not be on his feet. She asks what's wrong with him, and Dallas informs her that some type of organism seems to have attached itself to his face. So Ripley's like, okay, I actually can't open the door to let you in that case because we have a quarantine procedure and we have to allow 24 hours for decontamination. So this gets Dallas pretty angry. He's like, he could die in 24 hours. We need to get him inside. And Ripley's like, well, that's the law, and I'm not going to risk all our lives, just to save him. Like, I'm sorry. But Science Officer Ash disobeys her order and just opens the door anyway and lets them in. Another suspicious move on the part of our science officer here. So we quickly cut to the med bay of the ship where they remove Kane's helmet, and as we can see from these great stills, we get a proper look at the face hugger for the first time, which is just a really, really terrifying creature. Really well designed. It looks so realistic as well. You can see it's kind of like breathing pouches on either side moving up and
Yeah,
down. You can see its tail tightening around Kane's neck. It's a really really impressive special effect and kind of animatronics they've used here to create this. So we got the Dallas and Ash. They want to try and remove the creature from Kane's face. So at first they try to just literally pull on in one of its legs, but it just ends up wrapping its tail around Kane's neck
yeah, it's
tighter.
very strong.
So then they think, okay, let's try cutting it off. So they go to slice into one of the knuckles on one of its limbs, and it begins to bleed. Except when this creature bleeds, it doesn't bleed blood; it bleeds molecular acid, which begins to burn through the floor and then go to the next deck and burn through the floor on that deck, and then go down another level and start burning into the ground there where it finally stops. So we established that this creature has acid for blood, which makes it very, very dangerous to try and remove it forcefully because we see from even just cutting it a little bit that just a few drops of its blood managed to burn through like 2.5 decks of their ship. So they're going to really have to now proceed with caution if they're going to try and take it off.
It's
Great
a
effect as
nasty
well
critter.
when the acid burns through. What do
Yeah,
you
I'll
make
just
of all
jump back.
this?
Such a nasty critter. I was jumped back one. Just there was a nice close up there of the old dead alien in the chair. It's just an amazing bloody build and
Yeah,
all
we
those organic looking walls, like a mix of the HR Giga artwork and style. It's all kind of bits of like rib bones and stuff, all kind of going up the wall, and it kind of also mimics like insect hives and that, and it's very disturbing.
incredible. It's an incredible. Let me just show you for a second. I do actually have. So it was
What you
called the
got?
Space Jockey, or at least that's what the fan
Yeah,
name was for it. But
yeah.
it is an
Nice. Hang
incredibly,
on, hang on.
amazingly designed, just creature and general setup. Mine's a bit dusty here from sitting on the shelf, but we can see here actually on this side he actually has the hole in his chest as well from whatever it was that burst through. But yeah, it's just an amazing design, really cool looking. As you
So
said,
who
very
made that one?
Giger-esque, which of course makes sense.
So who made that one?
That particular model was a NACA piece. They, I want to say maybe back in 2016, 2017, they released a couple of smaller toys. They even released a small scale kind of like HK tank from Terminator and a few other ships from Alien and Predator. I can't remember the name of the line, but it was just smaller scale stuff. I don't even think they make them anymore. But yeah, I
No, I
managed
haven't
to
seen
pick
any.
up that space jockey for, I think it was about like $30 at the time, which wasn't too
Nice.
bad. So
Only stuff
yeah,
I ever saw was back in probably in the 90s, just at the old model shops. There was various stuff back then. There was like a Paolo, there was a Queen Alien, and stuff that was fairly movie accurate. And I can't tell you who made it because there was a bunch of, it was one of the major companies, but that I haven't really seen stuff since back then, other than when, you know, action figures and movie maniacs and Nick and all that block as far as movie stuff. But yeah, facehugger, nasty business. And
very nasty business.
go on
Very
to the
nasty.
next scenes here. And was a nice, nasty close up where you can see the legs are like pretty much based on human fingers and that, and like the knuckles and everything. And it's got that horrible tail that wraps around like very tight. If they try and remove it, it just wraps even tighter to the point it will choke or break his neck. Because it's not like he really needs to be alive too long to for the purpose of aliens purposes. Really, he just needs to be a bloody host.
Yeah, so the ship gets repaired anyway, so Parker and Brett are able to do enough repairs to make the ship flight worthy to get them back into the atmosphere. In the meantime, Ash informs Dallas to come down to the med bay because there's been a change in Kane's condition. He won't say what it is over the radio. Dallas comes down to the med bay along with Ripley, and they see this. The facehugger seems to have actually removed itself from Kane's face. It's no longer on Kane's face. Kane's just lying there in the med bay. And after some kind of looking around, they actually find the corpse of the facehugger, which seems to have detached itself and died by itself. And I think we saw in the last set of slides there was a great shot of just a dead facehugger kind of lying on the ground. It looks almost like a jellyfish with legs, but according to Scott, they used all sorts of like organs and stuff and bits and
Yeah,
pieces of like kind
there's
of
lots of
offal and
actual
that
meat
just
in there.
make it look very, very fleshy. So the facehugger is off Kane's face, and Kane does eventually wake up as well a few scenes later. So they're in a pretty jovial mood. They've managed to get off the planet. Kane seems to be awake and well. They didn't have to like try and kill him to like take the thing off its face. It came off by itself. So they think everything's actually, it might actually be working out okay. So they think, right, look, we investigated, we did what we were supposed to do. Let's all have one last meal before we climb back into the cryo tubes and make our way back to Earth. So they're all sitting around, they're all eating, drinking, laughing, joking. Everybody's having a grand time, and all of a sudden Kane starts coughing, and the coughing turns pretty violent to where he's actually starting to choke. And people beside him are like, "Oh, you okay? Are you okay?" And like they're trying to like grab him. Then all of a sudden he really starts properly choking and like having a fit. He falls back onto the table, and as he's struggling, as they're trying to calm him, we see the first splash of blood as something begins to rip through his chest. And then shortly afterwards, we see the chest puncture and the chest burster emerge when we get a really good look at our cutie little baby alien who just looks adorable, covered in Kane's blood. He's a wee cutie pie. He even kind of smiles at them almost before running across the table. And escaping out of the room. Now I know I joke. I'm sure it's horrible to anybody watching it for the first time. This scene is probably one of the most memorable scenes in like movie history. It's totally famous for how shocking it was at the time. Just the kind of unexpected emergence of the alien bursting through Kane's chest, and just the kind of shock that went with that. Everybody being sprayed with blood, and of course, yeah, getting a look of it before it scurries off.
They upped the amount of blood splatter and whatnot, the mechanism where it switches from John Hurt, the actor, to John Hurt, the dummy with the gimmick chest. And they didn't tell the actors exactly what was happening. So when they burst out, they got a very good real reaction from people at how much stuff went splattering all over them.
Yeah, it's I even love that shot of Lambert. She's kind of like, you can see she's just disgusted at all the blood that's just landed on her. So look, has obviously completely now altered plans. Nobody's going back to sleep in the cryo tubes, and there's basically a plan devised to try and catch this little monster, whatever it is, because they just don't know what it's capable of doing, and they need to somehow manage to capture it and either confine it or kill it, because they won't be able to kind of go back to sleep in the pods with it running around on the ship. So they split into two groups, and one group is made up of Ash, Dallas, and Lambert, and the other group is made up of Ripley, Parker, and Brett. And Brett designs what is essentially a cattle prod. It's just a little stick with an electrical charge that's designed to kind of shock the creature, maybe to stun it long enough so they could try and capture it. They're also given a kind of a tracking device, which is rigged together by Ash. He says will pick up kind of movements ahead of you. It keys off changes in air density, so it will be able to detect any movement in front of you within a certain distance. So they split up. They go searching the corridors and the bowels of the ship for this creature. And at one point, as Ripley, Parker, and Brett are wandering the corridors, the motion tracker begins to make a noise, and they're pretty sure that they're about to come upon the creature. But as they open the door to the locker that they think the creature is in, it's actually Jonesy the cat. So Jonesy jumps out and scurries down the hole, and this kind of gets them in a little bit of a tizzy, because they're not going to be able to search for the creature with Jonesy running around, because Jonesy might actually set off the tracker. So they send Brett to go and get Jonesy and to just basically to capture him, so he's not going to be coming up on the tracker. So Brett sets off by himself. He's wandering through the bowels of the ship, calling out to Jonesy, and he kind of wanders into this big room with a lot of chains kind of dangling from the ceiling, and he sees Jonesy, hiding behind some boxes, some crates, and he tries to, call him over, and Jonesy's having none of it. Jonesy just keeps kind of looking behind him, because he can see that right behind him, a very large, dark creature has descended from the ceiling. And as Brett turns around, he's greeted to the sight of this like 7 foot giant, disgusting looking creature that snatches him by the head and drags him up into the air shaft from which it came. And as he's being dragged up, while we don't see exactly what happens to him, we do see a lot of blood falling down the shaft and hitting the ground, just as Parker and Ripley run into the room. And of course, Jonesy the cat has just been kind of sitting and watching silently the whole time while this is going on. So this is our kind of we've seen the alien as his little chest burster larvae, stage, but now we've seen that it can actually grow incredibly fast and very big, and we're starting to get a feel for that now for the first time.
Yeah, it's very scary business. Like the Alien, I mean, this is the first film where these things are introduced that become commonplace in later films and comics and media. But the Alien has like an accelerated life cycle where it's, like insects where they breed and grow fast and then breed and grow again, and a very nasty business. So close up there just of the chest burster. Nasty little bugger. Where he goes scuttling off across the room. Not phallic at all. And when we get into the next scenes here, some more of the old computer graphics.
Some computer graphics. Computer graphics basically telling Captain Dallas that their chances.
I think they're just playing Tron and that blue one there and taking a bit of a break from it.
So Parker and Ripley inform the rest of the crew what happened to Brett, and Parker's trying to explain to them that it's not a small creature anymore, that it's like a man, that it's big, and they're going to have to kill it. So they devise a plan where they're going to try and basically trap the alien in a section of the ship and kind of lure it down an air shaft so they can eventually blow it out an airlock. And in order to do this, Captain Dallas very bravely volunteers to go into the air shaft himself, to go and try and, find the creature and lure him out. So I have to say, the first time I watched this was actually the moment in the movie that really, really got to me, first seeing it, because it feels so claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Captain Dallas, he's hunched over, he's moving through that air shaft, he's trying to carry like a flamethrower in one hand, and the flames, like, even just for the actor, I'd imagine, moving in that small space with like a large flame, like it must have been so hot and confined and just awkward to move around, and it just feels so claustrophobic, and the paranoia really starts to get you because he's being monitored by the rest of the crew who are watching on the tracking device, and they can see the icon of the alien appears to be moving towards them at one point, but then it disappears and they can't tell where it's gone. So we've got Dallas here. He's in the middle of this air shaft. He's looking all around him. It's really dark. He can't see that far ahead of himself. And then all of a sudden, the tracker starts beeping again. And Lambert over the radio kind of warns him, "Hey, look, you better move. You better get out of there. It seems to be moving towards you." So Dallas, he goes to try and climb down some set of kind of utility ladder or whatever, and he gets into another air shaft. And just as he turns around, he's greeted by the sight of the alien with open arms that literally just screams at him, grabs him, and that's the last moment we see of Dallas. Well, depending on what version of the movie you watch. I actually forgot to even ask you whether we were talking about the director's cut or the theatrical version, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, that's Dallas. Dallas got in the air shaft. So now shit's really kind of hitting the fan. We're 3 crew members down, and it's safe to say, I'd say, panic and the like is really starting to set in. We see an argument between Parker, Lambert, and Ripley over what they should do. Ripley says that, for the time being, they're just going to proceed with Dallas's plan and see if they can maybe try and capture it and kill it. But like, Parker's not really keen on this at all and doesn't think it's going to work out. And this whole time, it should be noted that Science Officer Ash has really not been very helpful or contributing to the situation at all. He's been remaining silent. He's just kind of watching everybody closely. Should also note as well that a few times prior to this, there have been moments between Ripley and Ash where she's clearly kind of questioning his motives as to why he does things, like why he even let the crew back in the ship in the first place, and other little things he's been doing along the way that have kind of set off her alarm bells, so to speak, and her suspicions. But she informs Ash that now that both Dallas and Kane are no longer with us, that she is now the highest ranking officer on the ship, so she has access to the mother computer system. So she goes on and actually uses the access code to read about what the special company order is regarding what to do here. And the order from the company essentially is that the alien is to be brought back to Earth alive, and that is the only priority, and that all other priorities are secondary, and that the crew is expendable.
Yeah,
So
but it
the
was
computer
different
just
from
tells,
the job of just hauling cargo to now hauling this
yeah.
alien thing.
So the computer just pretty much tells her straight up, look, the mission is to bring the creature back, and if you die, you die. You know, that's just that's what we expect. But it's a very kind of freaky moment here where Ripley, as she's kind of looking at the computer screen and trying to take this all in, she leans back in her chair, and as she leans back, we can see that Ash has literally been like sitting behind her the whole time, watching her. And this totally freaks her out. Like, she's totally disturbed by this. She kind of pushes him away, and she goes to try and leave, but he closes the door in front of her, and then she goes to try and leave through another door, and then he closes that door as well. And she's like, Ash, aren't you going to let me out? Are you going to open the door? And she walks towards him, and she notices that he's got a little bit of white fluid running down the side of his head. And just as she notices that, he attacks her, and it's a pretty brutal attack. Like,
Yeah,
he
savage.
literally throws her across the room. He like smashes her into a wall. He picks her up by the hair. He like pulls a chunk of her hair out, but he picks her up by the hair and like tosses her on to a workbench. He then gets like a magazine which he rolls up incredibly tight and tries to like jam it down her throat, like it's if he's trying to like break her windpipe by like shoving down this magazine down her throat. It's pretty brutal what he's trying to do to her. And just as he's about to murder her, essentially, Parker and Lambert run into the room to see what's going on, and Parker tries to drag him off, but Ash seems to be freakishly strong, and he literally grabs Parker right in the chest and just squeezes and just like is able to push him away. But eventually, Parker he's able to grab like a canister or like a heavy cylinder, and he keeps beating Ash across the back of the head with it, and then all of a sudden Ash's head actually comes off, and it's revealed that he is in fact an android, or as Parker says, Ash is a goddamn robot. So all of a sudden now we have this headless robot that's still going around, and he's trying to kill them. He jumps up on top of Parker, and he's trying to like choke him, and like his arms are all spasming and making these crazy movements, and his head's like flopping off the back, and there's like white stuff just squirting out and flying all over the place. And eventually Lambert's able to get her hands on that little cattle prod device from earlier on, and she's able to stab him in the back with it, which deactivates Ash and shuts him down for the moment. So this is like a major reveal and a major kind of shocking moment in the story of this movie, that Ash is revealed to not even be a human.
Yeah,
He's
we
some
didn't know
type
there
of
were androids
android.
in this world until now.
Yeah. And so they quickly established that the company have obviously placed this android on board to watch them and to make sure that this whole situation went according to their plans. So Ripley decides that she actually wants to reactivate Ash because she thinks he'll be able to give them information on how to kill the alien. So they do this great scene where they Ash's decapitated head is like on a table, his body is just lying right beside him, and they reactivate his circuits, and he comes back to life. Great piece of visual effects as well, with the head just talking on the table. And they ask him, flat out, how do you kill it? And he just tells them, oh no, you won't be able to kill it. Like it's almost indestructible, and it's not going to hesitate to kill you. And then he, almost just to rub insult to injury, he says to them, I'm not going to lie to you about your chances, but you do have my sympathies. And he just smiles at them. And then Ripley gets really thick, and she pulls the plug on him, and then Parker just burns him with a flamethrower. So that's the end of Ash. What did you make of all of this, like, reveal of Ash being an android and all this stuff?
It's a great scene because he's very like kind of placid and in the background, and he's just another one of the crew and all this, and then all of a sudden the scene he's stalking behind her like bloody, we're all like I don't know, Hannibal Lecter style all of a sudden, and like they're smashing them around the room, and then finding out is an android explains the strength, but we see that he's just the puppet of the company, of the corporation. He's the proxy, so he's although he attacks them, he's not really a bad person or android. He's basically following his programming, which is to fulfill the mission of the company. So there's even a little bit of sympathy when they bring his head back to life, because he's no longer a threat to them, and it's kind of a bit sad and pathetic at the same time. A moment ago, he was trying to kill them. But it's such a great scene. I love the way too how they, because he's an android, and like old Blade Runner and replicants and that, he's has the appearance of a human, even down to having kind of like fake intestines and guts that obviously carry different fluids and such for him. But fantastic effects, excellent actor doing the scenes. I love this scene, and it's such a real head trip the first time you watch it. And it's like, what the hell's going on? First we got the alien, now we got this bloody robot man just getting his head ripped off. And
A total shocker, because, look, as I mentioned several times, Ash does act suspiciously throughout the movie, but
yeah,
you probably more are under the impression, oh, well, he probably works for the company, and maybe he's like a double agent, or he's up to
or
something
maybe it's just
suspicious, or
HR. They're always
yeah,
suspicious.
like he is a scientist, so maybe he's just a bit of a mad scientist. You don't really know
Mm.
fully what the deal is, but like the last thing you'd ever be expecting would be that he'd be an android, that he wouldn't actually even be human. That's a major shocker.
Yeah,
So
and it
we're
also,
now down. Sorry, go ahead.
I just also it's kind of a plot reveal where he's talking about being indestructible, and the computer going, "We don't care about the crew, just get the sample." It says that they know more than they're letting on. They know something already about this creature, like through other, whether it's intel or whether they've actually seen them before or not, we don't know. But they've got some kind of information that they wanted.
Oh yeah, and it
It's not
definitely
just a random find. Like they must have known it was there or had some idea. Or
yes, exactly. And they obviously knew enough to know that it was a good idea to place one of their androids aboard this particular ship, because they knew it would be in that part of space
yeah,
where they wanted to go as well. So
and we don't know
yeah,
why they want it. A lot of the movies and comics get into other stuff. I won't jump into that because it's very insidious, but why they actually want it is still up for debate at this point.
take a good look, folks. This is where AI is going to lead. It's all fun and games when Johnny's using AI to make funny pictures and voices, but this is what the ultimate consequences of this technology will be. You'll be
Yeah, you won't
going
get
to
a
work. You'll
you
be
won't get a
going to
flop
work,
on
and
this
the
prime
person
like I made
beside you,
earlier.
person sitting beside you in the office, is a goddamn robot. He's watching everything you
Goddamn
do.
robot.
He's
Already most
reporting
of
it
the
all
robots
back to
already, aren't they?
HR.
So
The reason you didn't get your bonus is because the fucking robot who sits next to you in your cubicle was ratting you out
yeah,
for all the work you weren't doing.
yeah.
So we're down to the last three members of the crew. So it's
Get
decided
the
that
Resident Evil moment.
this is what we're going to do. We're going to take our chances in the shuttle. There's only 3 of us. We're going to need lots of kind of oxygen canisters and stuff. So this is what's going to go down. We're going to escape in the shuttle, and we're also going to blow up the Nostromo, which will obviously kill that creature as well. So Ripley sends Parker and Lambert to gather up the necessary kind of oxygen supplies that they're going to need for a long journey, while Ripley goes to start the beginnings of, getting the ship ready for detonation. She also remembers that Jonesy is still wandering around, so she goes and tries to gather him up as well. Now, while she's doing all this, Ash and Lambert are down in the bowels of the ship gathering the canisters when all of a sudden the alien attacks, and he goes to attack Lambert first, but Parker kind of runs towards it to try and save her. Now the alien just turns around really quickly, grabs Parker, and gives him the old mouth through the head, which is another kind of first time in movie history where we see that horrific way that the xenomorph can actually kill a person. So he dispatches of poor Parker pretty quickly, and then he turns round to Lambert. Now we don't see like exactly how Lambert meets her demise, but we kind of do see this moment where like the alien's tail kind of goes between her legs right before you hear loads of screaming and heavy breathing. So fuck knows what the alien did to her before he killed her, but like it didn't sound too good. And the whole time that this is happening, their radios have been left on, so Ripley can hear all this like death happening over the radio as she's like running down the corridor to try and find them. But by the time she reaches the area where they were, all she can see is the 2 dead bodies of Parker and Lambert. So now we are down to just Ripley and Jonesy the cat. They're the 2 last crew members here. So Ripley begins the process of detonating the ship, the self-destruct mechanism, which is pretty goddamn. I know we've spoken a few times about how technology and stuff works or looks in this movie. I love this whole, just
I
the
love a
way
good
the whole
destruction
setup
sequence.
where, yeah, and the way you need like a special key to open each of the things, and it's obviously designed in such a way that like to make sure that some idiot doesn't accidentally blow up the ship, that you have to go through all these steps to make sure that you definitely know what you're doing before you go to blow up the ship. So Ripley, she activates the self-destruct, she grabs Jonesy, and she goes running down the corridor to get to the shuttle. The only problem is, just as she's about to get to the door of the shuttle, she notices that the alien is ahead of her in the corridor. So she puts Jonesy down, which I'm kind of a bit like, what the fuck? Are you just going to leave your cat there? But she puts him down. He's still in his carrier. She leaves the carrier there, and she makes her way back down the corridor, because now she's thinking, I'm not going to be able to get in the shuttle, but the ship's about to blow up, so I better turn off this goddamn self-destruct sequence. So she runs back into the room to cancel the self-destruct. The only problem is she doesn't do it in time. She doesn't make the change in time before the countdown expires to allow her to do so. So it's too late to cancel the self-destruct, which really pisses her off because she only missed it by a couple of seconds. So she like smashes up the computer in anger with her flamethrower. So she runs back down the corridor, and she sees that the alien is no longer in the corridor. Jonesy is still there in his carrier. The alien had actually looked at him earlier and not killed him. Who knows? Maybe they're in league together. Maybe there's something going on there. But she picks up Jonesy. She gets into the shuttle. and we think she's on her way out of there. We think it's going to be all smooth sailing from here.
Yeah, they've got nice close up of that, but the alien's face from that scene, all slimy.
Slimy, great teeth.
Yeah,
He's
look
got a
up
good
there. I've got the big one up there, like the 18-inch one up in the corner. Look at the face.
Yeah, really. Have to give credit to Geiger, like he or Giger, whatever way you want to pronounce his name. Like he really is something special when it comes to these designs. Like it's just such a unique design for a creature that you'll never see again. Just the whole biomechanical appearance of it is
Yeah.
fantastic, and
Have
just
you
and then
seen
all
in
the extra
the
kind of
Have you seen in the features and the props or later on in the toys where it's got the actual human skull inside the head and the rest of it's coming out the
yes,
back? That always kind of blew my mind seeing that. I mean, I know it was based around the kind of human look for the shape and when it's standing up, but then that actual skull that's in the head that they put into some of the later toys as well, where it's like
well,
transparent dome on the top.
even though it's hard to see in the film, but that transparent dome is actually on the creature the whole time in this
Yeah.
movie. You can only sometimes see it if you happen to pause the shot when it's in a bit of good light. Most of the time, when you do see the alien, you think it only has kind of like a black dome, but it's because it's so darkly lit that you actually just can't see the translucent skull beneath it. But it is there.
And that's part of
It's
the thing with its genetics, where again, this is the first film, so we don't know, but as the films go on, we learn that whatever host organism the alien goes into, it takes on characteristics of that, whether it's an animal or a human, it becomes like a hybrid organism, which I assume it's like the ultimate species that can just survive in any environment or planet and all that. So I guess that's part of its survival thing.
I see this, I get flashbacks to my stag
Scuttle.
party when I see this. Do you know why? I
Why
got
is
I
that?
got a I got like completely hammered in a
You
hotel,
got like
and
a replica evacuation bomb thing sitting behind you. So let's
I'll
lift
tell you
it
what
up.
it to piss off my friends who were sharing a
Yeah.
room with me because I thought it would be hilarious. I found a YouTube video that repeats the self-destruction warning from this
Oh, does
film
it?
on a
Great.
10-hour loop,
Oh,
and I
oh.
put it on my phone, and then I hid my phone in the room and left the room, and they just went mental for hours looking for my phone, trying to turn it off while they're trying to go to sleep.
But surely after hours, if they did find it, they would smash it. They wouldn't turn it off.
Yeah, luckily they didn't. Luckily they didn't. I came back after a couple hours. They're just lying there with like pillows over their heads.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. Oh man, very dry today, like coughing a lot.
Yeah, I'm the same actually. Yeah, very sniffly here as well. So
I'm drinking plenty of water, but I don't know. It's a dry kind of heat today.
so Ripley, she makes it on to the shuttle. Seems to be all clear. The ship is literally starting to detonate and come apart. She just about manages to launch the shuttle and reach a minimum safe distance as the Nostromo explodes in beautiful fashion. And we get this kind of like, especially when you're watching the movie for the first time, you're kind of feeling like, wow, finally, this poor woman, she's been through a lot, but at least now she can relax. She's there, she's kind of cuddling Jonesy, and she puts him in the cryopod, and she starts taking off her gear. She's slipping into her sleepwear because she's about to get in the cryopod, and she's hitting a few buttons on a console when all of a sudden a hand shoots out in front of her. It's the alien's hand. He's managed to stow away within a crevice of the shuttle. And now Ripley's absolutely dunging herself. So she runs in, she pretty much gets inside a closet, and she watches as the alien is kind of like moving around and hunkering back into the little alcove where she saw it in the first place. So she decides to get inside a spacesuit. She zips herself up and locks herself in, puts on the suit. She also finds like a harpoon gun, and she slowly gets out of that containment closet and she walks towards the control panel. And she starts kind of activating these kind of various kind of air systems and stuff to try and flush the alien out of the crevice it's hiding in. And as she's kind of on the control console doing all this, the alien's being kind of pushed out of where it's hiding, but it's also making its way towards her, and she has her back to it. Excuse me. So just as the alien is about to set upon her, she turns around quickly and sees it, and she hits the button for the airlock, which sucks the alien out the door of the ship. She has her spacesuit on, so she's protected. And little Jonesy's in the cryo tube, so he's protected too, thank God. And the alien, it's not going to go easily. It grabs onto the door. So Ripley shoots it in the chest with the harpoon gun, which forces it away from the door. And then it's kind of still connected to the ship. So she activates the thrusters and pretty much incinerates it as it's dangling from the ship. So finally, the alien has been killed.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. We got a couple of cool stills here. Just the cat cuddle time before the space madness.
Look at that little face.
I posted that last week on Facebook, and I said, in space, nobody can hear you cuddling your cat. It's a much nicer version of the horror. Beautiful cat, which apparently I used about 4 different stunt cats for.
My own little Jonesy sleeping here.
Oh, here's your stunt cat. Oh, look at him. It's like, no, I'm shy. I don't want to be on camera. It's too warm here. I wish my cat would sit like that in here, but he will only sit in about 2 rooms in the house. He's got his bed down the lounge yard, or our bed in the bedroom. He wanders about between those, and he won't sit anywhere else. He just won't settle. He only stays in those rooms. And yeah, just a bit of a close up of all the area and all the do walkies and bits and stuff, and but awesome production design. And yes, then the space madness.
So cool. And you wouldn't even notice the alien hiding there unless you'd already watched the film a few times. So good. And it really is. It's just like it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I do struggle sometimes trying to decide whether I like Alien better than Aliens or vice versa. But to be honest, I just love them both equally. I absolutely adore them. Like, obviously, this movie's a lot more of a horror thriller as opposed to the second movie, which is a lot more action driven.
I like it's my favorite of all of them, but like the other ones are second ones, pretty much equal as far as being a great film. But I just like I don't know, I like when something's kind of a little bit low budget, and I mean this still had a reasonable budget, but it's still relatively for what it is. They're doing a lot with a smaller budget, and I like when horror stuff is able to do a lot with minimal sets and minimal lighting and minimal cast, rather than the bigger and more expansive something gets. Like it's changes what it is, because they're very different films. This one's the ghost ship space trucker movie, and the other one's the military guys and a bigger cast and more action and more action adventure, whereas this one's the horror type of thing. But I love them both. I'll keep watching both of them till I'm dead. All gone space mad.
I just love the presentation of the alien in this movie, because it does feel sometimes like it is indestructible. And especially, they're not military. They don't have guns and stuff. They're very limited weapons they can use. So you really kind of feel for the crew when they're trying to survive this situation. And yeah, just a real menace, a real threat. It's incredible movie. Everything about it, the cast, the music, the effects, just perfect. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I mean, even when I've seen bits of these movies, because the second film was the first one I ever saw on TV, and years later I saw bits of this one on television before I got to see it on, I don't know, VHS or DVD or whatever, you know, in full. But in high school, I remember a mate had a Giga art book, and he had like a heap of stuff in there. I mean, it had Alien, but it had his other general art, and that was amazing seeing his stuff. And it's all very psychosexual, weird stuff, but also generally amazing art and design. Which is why everything to do with aliens all like phallic and weird, and everything's about like basically sex and death, anything to do with the alien.
Oh yeah, and you know, kind of on that topic, I'm going to give
I
a
should say
shout out here
reproduction as well, of
to.
course, because that's like the key feature of it.
I'm going to give a shout out to our good buddy Jim Largo over at Largo's Lair, and if anybody is interested, myself, Jim, and
He did a thing.
Wilhelm, we did a Beasties and Baddies. I think it's probably a year and a half ago now,
I'll look it
and
up and
we
I'll add it into the description. So if anyone's watching this, check out the description. I'll add that manual link in there. I think I've already got
we just
saved
kind
in
of
my
spoke
personal
about
playlist.
you know, the alien creatures in general, and you know, we speak about Predator as well. So if you are interested in, not so much, it's not like what we did today, which is kind of like a film go through of everything that happened, but more so just like a general discussion on the creatures and the kind of media around them. Guzzling coke here in this heat.
Yeah, so I'll just unmute myself. But yeah, I'll add that video because I have that saved, but I mean privately I have it saved on YouTube so I can watch it again. But I'll make a link in the description so people can go directly to that and check that one out because it's a really good talk you did with Largo.
Largo's a good guy to talk to and a very easy guy to talk to.
Yeah.
So go check out all the other Beasties and Bodies episodes, folks. They're all good.
Yeah, they're excellent. He always does awesome videos. Speaking of awesome videos, I wonder what we're doing next week. Video nasty.
Bleeds, we can kill it. Look at those muscles. All natural, of course.
Yeah, all natural.
Yeah, next week we're going to be talking about another one of my favorites, Predator, and I absolutely can't wait.
And also a film with an interesting production history and all sorts of stuff. You know, chops and changes and the old Claude Van Damme stuff at the start of it and all that.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked a bit about this when we spoke about RoboCop, I think, but it's I think a lot of times when it comes to these kind of great movies, you do find that there was often a lot of turmoil before we got to where we got to.
Yeah, it's kind of
With the final
excellent. They
product.
went from B movie to becoming a good movie somewhere along the way.
But yeah, really looking forward to the Predator, and I will try my best not to do bad Arnold impressions and repeat
I'm not looking
one-liners from the
forward to being
movie.
skinned alive whatsoever.
So we cooked up a story and dropped the 6 of us in a meat grinder.
Yeah, sexual Tyrannosaurus, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, looking forward to it. Big time. Big time.
Yeah, that's the end of today's show. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, everybody. Just make sure you always follow company orders. That's the moral of today's story.
Absolutely. Follow company orders. Do what they say. Don't question anything.
And if you're suspicious about that guy who sits next to you in work, it's probably because he's a goddamn robot.
Well, he's probably like, I don't know, the guy from Deus Ex or something has got all sorts of weird mods and stuff inside his head. And if you question him, he'll probably like punch your chest and just rip your heart out and then go back to work before you even know what's happening.
Yeah. True expandable.
Okay, we'll catch you next time, guys.
See you, folks.